today, I want to talk to you today about depression. Okay, and this can be a tricky subject when it comes to falls. Depression is one of those things that impact so many phases of our lives, right? Not only do you think about the typical symptoms when it comes to depression, like withdrawing and the impact that has on seniors, but also depression has been shown to impact our gait. And then also there's a very close relationship between depression and the fear of falling. In fact, it's a really high rate of people who have an extreme fear of falling that they also are suffering from depression. And what I see oftentimes is when someone has an unintended fall, a lot of times once they recover, that fear of falling increases. And then they'll begin to withdraw. And there's a big myth out there too that we'll address now, that a lot of folks think, well, if I move less, I will reduce my risk of falling. Well, on the surface, that is correct. But if you dive deeper into that myth, what you'll find is that if you move less, your muscles will atrophy. I always preach to you guys to walk. And why do I do that? Because walking is a load-bearing exercise. What is load-bearing exercise good for? It's good for strengthening the muscles and the bones. And then also, you guys, maybe you've heard this, motion is lotion. Okay, it's going to help the joints and keep those joints healthy and moving. I found a study on the National Institute of Health website, and combing through this week, I just want to run through this. Depression and falls have a significant bidirectional relationship. An excessive fear of falling, which is what we were just talking about, which is frequently associated with depression, also increases the risk of falls. Both depression and the fear of falling are associated with impairment of gait and balance. Right, guys? Remember we discussed earlier, I was talking about how it impacts your gait. Now, an association that is mediated through our cognitive, sensory, and motor pathways. So what that's telling you is that depression impacts the brain. It actually shrinks the brain, right? And when we move, when we exercise, what we've talked about oftentimes in here, the brain is malleable. And when we exercise, those synapses in our brains, they get closer together. And as we age, they come apart. And that's important if you have a neurological disease. We're not going to get into that today. But when we exercise, it helps our memory, it helps our mind, it helps our mood. Memory, mind, and mood, okay? And so the management of depression is a tricky situation too, because a lot of times your SSRIs, the serotonin reuptake pills, can impact your balance in a significant way. So even the medication for this stuff, guys, can really impact your risk for falls in a negative way. It increases your risk for fall. 1/3 of community dwelling seniors fall each year. So these guys in nursing homes, assisted living facilities. 10% of all falls result in a major injury, which can lead to institutionalization and death. Falls often result in a fear for falling more often, right? I butchered that. I'm sorry, guys. A recent meta-analysis reported that fall prevention programs like Balance University, now we're talking fall prevention, are effective in reducing falls by an average of 14% over a minimum of 5-month period. I will take that. I will take that. All right? It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you look at programs like Tai Chi, wonderful programs, and then you take Balance University, where we do balance-specific exercises. And research also tells us when you do balance-specific exercises, your chances of improving your balance increase by 20%. 21% is actually the number. All right, so Tai Chi is great. I want you to do Tai Chi if you have access to it. But I also want you to do balance-specific movements, for example, standing on one foot, okay? Or if that's really hard for you, standing in a split stance, all right? If you have any further questions, comb through this YouTube channel, check it out. There are a lot of exercises here for you guys. And on the website, mybalanceuniversity.com, there is a video library of all the exercises in Balance University, okay? All right, I think we covered it. Let's get to work.